We start now. Alright, today's topic in economics is employment. I think we already know what employment is. Yeah. Employment means that someone has a job. Okay, so what is employment here? They said employment is the use of factors of production, such as labor in the economy. The use of factors of production. Factors of production. We already know what factors of production are. These are resources that enables us to produce goods and services. Resources that we put together to be able to have a production. That is factor of production. So, one of the factors of production is labor. So, when we have a job, remember, labor is the physical and mental effort we have to be able to work. That is labor. People that have a job, that's what we call labor. So, when labor is being engaged or used in an economy, we call it what? Employment. Do we get employment here? Employment means that someone is engaged. Certain people have a job. That's what we call employment. So they said employment patterns. So employment pattern changes over time based on the economic trend. What's the economic trend? Economic trend means the way the economy is going, the way the economy is moving. So the trend in an economy also decides the type of employment opportunity in that economy. So here we say, for example, developed economies such as USA, UK have higher employment rates in the tertiary sector. You know, we have three sectors in an economy. We have the primary sector, we have the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. So, developed economies in the country, developed economies like the US, like Germany, like Italy, they use tertiary sector. So, they have their highest employment in the tertiary sector. Are you getting the point here?
Yeah.
We have three sectors in the economy. We have the primary sector, the secondary sector, the tertiary sector. The primary sector deals with extraction of raw materials. The secondary sector deals with manufacturing of finished products. And the tertiary sector is the service sector. So in the developed economies, they use tertiary sector mostly. So their largest employment is always in the tertiary sector. While countries like China, India have larger employment in the manufacturing sector, which is secondary production. So countries like China, like India, whenever you talk about manufacturing, they are mostly, that is their own largest employment rate. They have higher employment rate in the manufacturing sector. So what happens to developing and underdeveloped economies? So when you talk about developing economies, we are talking about economies that are just coming up, that are just mostly African countries. They are developing economies. Nigeria, Libya, these countries, they are developing. They are not developed. They are still coming up. So in this type of economy, they are mostly relying on primary sector. So they rely most on their what? On the primary sector of the economy. You know, the primary sector is talking about what? Extraction of raw materials. Like Libya, the only resources we have here is what? Petroleum and extraction. So that shows that it's what? It is what in the primary sector of the economy, which means we are still developing. So basically, most of the countries in Africa are developing economies. Do we get it? We have the raw materials, but we don't finish the raw materials. We take it abroad to finish. So we take it to countries like China, countries like India, to get it finished. Do we understand the difference?
Yeah.
So developing economies, they have their largest employment in the primary sector. Developed economy, they have their largest employment in either manufacturing or tertiary sector. Do we understand? So that's why they say employment patterns changes as the economy trends. So the employment will change, the employment pattern will change based on how the economy is developing. Do we get it? Mm-hmm. There are some years where the US and the UK have their largest employment in the primary sector. But they start evolving, they start developing, and they became developed. And when we develop, we have our highest employment in the service sector. Because the service sector has the largest revenue, not the manufacturing. Just let's take an example, crude oil. Crude oil has petrol, has diesel, has kerosene, has a lot of inside it, but it is petroleum, it's the crude oil. So, and a country that has crude oil might need to take it outside of the country to get diesel, to get gas, gasoline, to get all these things. Do you see the difference here? The developing country or the underdeveloped country, they have crude oil, but they can't convert it to fuel, they can't convert it to diesel. They have to take it abroad to get it done. So that's why they are developing. They are not there yet. Do we understand the difference here? So we have to take note that in any developed economy, the service sector or the tertiary sector has the largest employment. Do we get it?
Yeah.
So, let's say it occurs. Okay, now according to the United Nations International Labour Organization, ILO, the minimum age limit for employment is 15 years old. So, for anybody to get employed, you have to be 15 years. From 15 years above, then you can be employed. So, if at 15 years you don't have a job, you can be part of what we call the unemployment of population. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Below 15, you are not. But when you are 15 and above, according to the International Labour Organization, you should get a job. So if you don't have a job at that age, you are part of the unemployed population. Do we understand? So we have what we call unemployment rate. So in every country, there's a way to measure or to calculate their unemployment rate. So let's see what we say here. Unemployment rate, this shows the percentage of countries working, the country's workforce that is unemployed. Workforce means those that are in the working age category. They are supposed to have a job, but maybe they don't have a job. In as much as you are 15 above, you are part of the workforce of a country. Do we understand workforce here? Workforce means the working population, the working age, those within the category that could work. And it starts from 15 above. Do we understand? So how do we calculate it? The unemployment rate is calculated by what? The number of unemployed divided by the workforce times 100. The number of unemployed divided by the workforce times 100. So what is the workforce? Those from 15 years above. So if you are 15 years above and you are not part of, you don't have a job, you are part of the unemployed. And to calculate it, it is what? Number of unemployed divided by the workforce times 100. We talk about number by what? The number means the population that is unemployed. Do you understand what number means here? The population that is unemployed. Is it clear? So let's look at this question. They said, calculate the number of unemployed people in a country with an unemployment rate of 8.5% and the following population data. So we have the data. The population of that country is 46 million, right? It's 46 million. So that's the population. And they said the age from 0 to 14, there are 17 million out of the 46 million. Yeah. So 17, from 0 to 14 is 17 million. Within that age, then we have ages of 15 to 64 to 20 million. Then we have ages from 64 above. That means age greater than or equals to 65. Greater than or equals to 65 as 9 million. So we need to find what? The number of, they said we should find the number of unemployed. So to find the number of unemployed, here we understand we need to find the unemployment rate. But we are given the unemployment rate to be what? 8.5%. So we already have the unemployment rate. So how do we find the number of unemployed? So we go back to the formula. We say number of unemployed divided by the workforce times 100. That's the unemployment rate. But now we have the unemployment rate to be what? 8.5. So that means 8.5 equals to number of unemployed over the workforce. So we need to find the workforce from this population. So is 0 to 14 the workforce?
No.
According to the ILO, they said from ages 15 above. So because it's from ages 15 above, 0 to 14 years is not part of the working population. Do we get it?
Yeah.
So this age is not part of it. Then age 15 to 64. Age 16 to 54, is it part of the workforce?
No. Yeah.
It's part of the workforce.
Yeah.
So that means we have 20 million here already. 20 million. Then age greater than or equals to 65, 9 million.
Yeah.
Is it part of the workforce?
Yes.
So that means our workforce is 20 million plus 9 million. That's what? 29 million. We can use M, okay?
Okay.
That means the workforce is what? 29 million. So how do we get the number of unemployed? That's the population of unemployed to be what? You cross multiply. So that's 8.5 multiplied by 29 million is equal to the number of unemployed. Number of unemployed. So what is the number of unemployed now? 8.5 multiplied by 29 million.
246.5.
What?
246.5.
246.
246.5.
246.5. Remember, we have to divide by 100, sorry, because it is number of workforce times 100. Do you get it? So that means to get here to be number divided by 100. That's 8.5%. That's 8.5 over 100.
Yeah.
Do we get it?
Yeah.
Please look at it. 8.5% means 8.5 over 100. So 8.5% is what? 8.5 divided by 100. Let's do that first.
So 8.5.
8.5 over 100 is what?
0.085.
Oh, it's the same. Doing like multiply this plus this. Multiply this first.
Okay.
8.5 multiplied by 29 divided by 100.
You get the 2.465.
2.465.
Yeah.
So that means we have, okay, let me just hold on please. Let me try to. So here we have 8.5. Hold on please. Let's take it. So we said 8.5%. 8.5%. This is 8.5%. That is 8.5 over 100 equals to number of unemployed over 29. This is what we have, right?
Yeah.
So 8.5 divided by this gives us what? Is 0.85. Is 0.85, right? Is it 0.85?
Yeah, no, 0.085.
It's 0.085. 0.085 multiplied by 29. What does that give you, please?
2.465.
That's 2.465. That's 0.47 million. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So this is the number of unemployed. So out of the 46 million, 2.47 doesn't have a job. Do we understand?
Yeah.
Do we understand unemployment rate here?
Yes, sir.
So that's the percentage. So we move on. Now, what really causes unemployment in the society? Unemployment is a situation, but what tends to cause the situation? How do we come about unemployment? That's what we have to talk about, causes of unemployment. The first one is frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment. What is frictional unemployment? It is a transitional unemployment that occurs when people change job due to time delay between leaving a job and starting a new one. So when I leave a job to start searching for a new job, I become unemployed. I am leaving this present job to start a new job or to search for a new job. In that time, in that period of time that I'm searching for a job, I become unemployed. So if I become unemployed due to the fact that I leave a job to search for a new job, I call it what? Frictional unemployment. Do we understand frictional unemployment here?
Yes.
Frictional unemployment, we can also call it temporary unemployment.
Huh?
Temporary unemployment. It means that you leave a job and start searching for a new job. So at that point in time, the period at which you have to find a new job makes it temporary. That is what we call frictional. So this is one of the reasons why we have unemployment. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
The second one, seasonal unemployment. So what is seasonal unemployment? This is caused by regular and periodical change in demand of certain products. Seasonal unemployment means that we don't get a job based on certain period of time. Let's give an example. Those that are maybe during the winter, those that sell umbrella, those that sell jacket, they sell most of the time. They sell very well then. Do you remember that during the winter time, umbrellas, jackets, they sell. They can buy them mostly at that period of time. Sweatshirts, this time it is their time to sell. Do you remember that? Do you notice that? That during the winter time, you sell most of what you buy most is jackets, sweatshirts, umbrella because of the rain and stuff. So if your company works, if you work within this company, you get a job at that time. But during the summer, nobody buys a sweatshirt. Nobody buys umbrella during the summer. So if you are losing a job because it is summertime, that means what? Seasonal unemployment. Do we understand seasonal here?
Yeah.
Losing a job based on certain period. Do we get seasonal here?
Yeah.
When someone loses a job because it is the season they don't produce, that's what we call seasonal unemployment. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Then we have technological unemployment. What is technological unemployment? This occurs when jobs are lost due to firms opting for capital-intensive method of production or operation. So when people lose their job because companies or firms, they start changing from labor to capital. They don't want to use labor anymore. They want to use machine. They want to use technology. So because your company or some companies decide to change from being labor intensive to become capital intensive, that's what we call technological unemployment. So I am losing my job because I can't become a machine, or I can't work, I can't understand the level at which they operate the machine. Do we get it here? Some people will lose the job because they don't have the technical know-how to operate the machine or to work with technology. So when people lose their job because of technology, we call it what? Technological unemployment. When firms try to change from being labor-intensive to start using machines or to be more of technology, it is what we call unemployment, technological unemployment. Do we understand technological unemployment here? I'll say it again. When jobs are lost because firms decide to become capital intensive. When jobs are lost because firms become what? Capital intensive. That's what we call technological unemployment. Is it clear? Then the fourth one, cyclical. What is cyclical unemployment? It is also known as demand deficient unemployment. Demand deficient unemployment. When you talk about demand deficient unemployment, it means there's lack of demand. There's what? Lack of demand. So we're going to lose our job, or people are losing the job because there's lack of demand for the products. There's lack of demand for the service. Do we understand? And this is the worst unemployment situation because it affects everybody. It affects the whole economy. So look at what I said here. It is also known as demand deficient unemployment. It is the most severe because it can affect every industry in an economy. It affects education, it affects health, it affects whatever. So it is caused by lack of aggregate demand. Remember what aggregate demand is?
Yeah.
The total number of goods and services we consume in an economy. So when we don't consume in an economy, that becomes a problem. When everybody stops consuming, firms stops, people stops, government stops. That means there's lack of aggregate demand. So this is going to affect everybody, including me, including you, including everyone. So that's why they said it's the worst unemployment situation. So what happens to our aggregate demand? Look at the graph here. The aggregate demand, look at the graph, we have our aggregate demand here. So here, in this type of situation, the aggregate demand will fall leftward from AD2 to what? AD1. So when the aggregate demand falls from AD2 to AD1, it could lead to what we call cyclical unemployment. So look at what happens. When the aggregate demand falls from AD2 to AD1, the level of income will fall.
Oh, yeah.
The level of not just our own income, national income. So when the aggregate demand falls from AD2 to AD1, the level of the national income will fall from Y1 to Y2. At that point in time, prices will fall from P1 to P2, but nobody is going to buy. So prices are falling, no one is willing to buy. Demand will fall. Demand has already fallen. That if demand has fallen, that's why the price will fall. So demand has fallen, prices has fallen, the national income will fall. So this cut across everyone in the society. That is why it's the most severe unemployment situation. Do we understand? So cyclical means that the aggregate demand in an economy has fallen from AD2 to AD1. A leftward, a rightward shift. It should be leftward from AD2. Sorry, how do I do it? From AD1 to AD2, sorry. It's because I started there. From AD2 to AD, from AD1 to AD2. Sorry, from AD1 to AD2. It has fallen. So it's a leftward shift. It's because I was staying on the other side. So if it falls from AD1 to AD2, Our national income will fall from Y1 to Y2, and the price will fall from P1 to P2. Do we get it clear? So that's what we call cyclical. Cyclical again means that we are having unemployment situation because of lack of aggregate demand. Is it clear? Then, how do government, we know unemployment is a situation in the economy. I cannot solve it, you cannot solve it. The only one that can solve it is the government. Do we understand? So how do government go about solving these problems? Government will solve it with policies. Are you with me? Government can only solve this unemployment situation with what? Policies. So let's see what they talk. Policies to deal with unemployment. So what do government do to curb or to solve the problem we have with unemployment? They use fiscal policy. What is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is the use of taxation and government spending to manipulate or to motivate or to influence the economy. So government will use taxes and government spending to do what? To correct the economic situation. So what do they need to do? Let's go back to this graph. So if government wants to boost the economy, if government wants to encourage firms to produce in an economy so that they can have what? Employment. What do they need to do? They reduce taxation. Do you get the point here?
Yeah.
Government will reduce taxation. So when government reduces taxation, it motivates firms to produce more. It motivates people to want to work. Are we getting it? At that point in time, the aggregate supply will increase from AS1 to AS2. Do you get it? Because of what? Because government has used fiscal policy, because they need to correct unemployment. So when they use reduction in taxation, reduction in taxation means that firms will be motivated to produce, they will be able to make more profits. They will be able to maximize profits. So this will increase aggregate supply. If it increases aggregate supply, employment will come. Now that firms are able to produce more, they will employ workers because they need workers so that they can meet up with production. Do we get the point here?
Yeah.
So government can use taxation, which is a fiscal policy, to solve the problem of unemployment by reducing taxation. It is not only that, they can also use subsidy to reduce unemployment. Subsidy, what is subsidy? Government spending on production. So government will give firms certain amount of money, or government will help firms with certain financial incentives so that they can be able to produce. So just imagine the government says, if you want to have a company, we're going to give you $10,000 up front as a grant. People will be willing to have a company. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So that's what we call, is a fiscal policy subsidy. Do we understand? That's what we call government spending. And government spending is what we call subsidy. So government could reduce taxation or increase subsidy to correct unemployment. Do we understand fiscal policy?
Yeah.
The second way is protectionist measure. What is protectionist measure? Tariffs and quotas can be used to protect local firms. When you talk about protectionism, it means government wants to ensure that local industries in this economy are not going down. They are able to compete with their foreign rivals. Do you understand? What I mean is this: the government of Libya will ensure that firms, companies in Libya are able to grow and compete with firms abroad. They will protect them. So how do government go about protecting them? Government could use tariffs or quotas. What is a tariff? A tariff is a taxation on imports. So government will not allow you to buy from outside. Government will not allow you to import products into Libya because they want companies in Libya to produce such products. That's what we call tariff. So tariff means that there's going to be importation, there's going to be taxes on importation. And when taxes are on importation, the prices of imports becomes higher. And that will discourage you to buy. Do you get the point here? Not that you can't buy, but because there is importation tariffs or there is importation taxation, the prices of those products will be high compared to local products. Do we get the point here? So if local products are cheaper than imported products, we'll buy local products. Do you get it?
Yeah.
But the only institution that can do that is the government. So the other way is quotas. What is a quota? A quota is not stopping importation, but giving certain quantity to be brought into the country. So the government will say, okay, if you want to bring phones from outside the country, you can only bring 20,000 pieces because our country is producing phones too. So that's what we call quotas, giving a certain amount, giving a quantity to what can be imported to a country. Do we understand the difference here? Tariffs means taxes on importation. Quotas means given a number or quantity to what can be imported to a country. Do we understand? That is what we call protectionism. So when you talk about protectionism, it means a way in which government can protect infant or local industries so that they can compete with their rivals abroad. Is it clear? And the third one, supply side policy. When you talk about supply side policy, these are government strategies which are used to correct imperfection in the labor market, which could lead to unemployment. Sometimes people lose their job, not because there's no job, because they are not capable to do the job. Are you getting it? Some people are not capable to do that job, they lost the job. So what do government need to do? Government works with what? The imperfection in the labor market. What is the labor market? The labor market is where the demand for labor and the supply of labor meets or intersects. So what is the problem within this situation? What is the problem within this institution? Government will try to solve it with supply side policy. What are the supply side policies? Government can use training, education to solve these problems. Maybe some workers don't have the adequate training to carry out the job. That's why they lose out on the job. They have education, but they need training, which they don't have. They need experience, which they don't get. So this could stop them from getting that job, or this could make them to lose that job. One of the things they do, let me give an example. In Nigeria, after your college years, you go for industrial attachment. Government will tell you to go for industrial attachment. What do you do with industrial attachment? In that industrial attachment, which is a year, you learn how to work in an organization without pressure. So then after that, you go back to finish your university. So by the time you finish your university, you are well equipped to be ready for the labor market. Do you understand? The labor market means I am ready to work. I have to take my CVs out. I have to get employment. So that's why they said imperfection in the labor market. So most of the time, firms are not patient enough to wait for you. Companies can't wait because it is their profit. They can't use you for trial. They can't use you as a bargain. They can't use you as what do I call it? As an experiment. They want you to be there and start working immediately, which most of the time is not possible. So when they give you that job, they want you to understand the job immediately, which is sometimes may not be possible. And because of the pressure for you to deliver, you lose the job. So what do government need to do? Because people will continue to lose the job because firms are not willing to wait. So because they are not willing to wait, government tries to solve the problem because it's a problem of the firms and the people, the firms and the workforce. So that's why they said was imperfection in the labor market. It's not the problem of those that are looking for a job only, it's also the problem of the firms that are unwilling to wait. Do you get the problem here? The demand for labor, the supply for labor, they are making mistakes. They are unable to agree because the firms cannot wait. The workforce are inexperienced. The firms want you to deliver, but you can't give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So because you lack experience, you might lose a job. And when people start losing the job because of lack of experience, it is what? It is a problem to the society. So the only one that can solve the problem is government. So that's why we talk about the policies to deal with unemployment. They use fiscal policy that reduction in taxation or increasing subsidy. They use protectionism by what? Not allowing foreign firms to dominate the economy. Do you get the point? And also supply side policy. They try to educate, they try to train the workforce. They don't only train the workforce, they also train the firms to be patient. They also talk to the firms to be patient.
Yeah.
Do we get the point here? So this is all about what employment is. Unemployment and employment is. So I'm going to quickly do a recap. We said employment means we are able to have a job. We are engaged. Unemployment means am willing and able to work, I am within the age, but I don't have a job. Why don't I have a job? There are different reasons why we don't have a job. One, frictional reason. When I leave a job to start for a new job, that is one of the reasons I don't have a job. People don't have a job because of this reason. So that's what we call frictional or temporary unemployment. Seasonal, when we lose a job because it is not the period to produce. When we lose a job because it is not the period we are producing. That is what we call seasonal unemployment. The third one, technological unemployment. We lose jobs because the firms are switching to capital intensive. They stop using labor rather capital intensive. They start using technology. They start using more machines than people. That is what technological unemployment. The fourth one, cyclical unemployment. I said it's a dangerous unemployment. It is so severe because it affects the whole economy. And why does it affect the whole economy? It affects the whole economy because the aggregate demand will shift leftward from AD1 to AD2. Do we understand that?
Yes.
So when we have all these problems, what do government need to do? Because government is the only one that can solve the situation. So government will come up with what? Policies. They come up with fiscal policies, they come up with protectionist measures, and they come up with supply side policies. All these are how we can solve what? Unemployment situation. And the last one is unemployment rate, which is number of unemployed divided by what? The workforce times 100. Is it clear? Do you have any question?